The sky over Valor burned red dot flames rose from broken towers. The ground shook under falling debris. Smoke covered the stars. The Zarn Dominion had come with full force, and they were winning. Commander Lero stood at the edge of the control deck, inside the last Valeri command base. His once bright armor was cracked and scorched. His eyes, once full of fire, now carried only shadows. Behind him, holograms flickered with red alerts. Every battlefront showed one word: lost. "Commander," whispered a young officer, barely standing, "we've lost contact with Sector 9 again." Lero didn't speak. He already knew. He watched as a red line moved closer to the capital city. The Zarn were not stopping. They would erase every last Valeri. No mercy. No survivors. Another officer shouted, "Zarn battleships entering low orbit." Lero turned slowly. "Are the civilian ships gone?" "Yes, sir. Last one jumped to deep space just minutes ago." "Then we have done what we could." He placed his hand on the console and looked at his people. "It is time. Time to surrender." There was no shame in it now. The war was lost. The Valeri were brave, but they were not strong enough. Their weapons, their ships, their technology. It was old, weak. The Zarn were monsters, and they were far ahead. LERO opened the communication line to the enemy fleet. "This is Commander Lero of the Valeri Defense. I wish to discuss terms of..." Suddenly, the base shook violently. Lights blinked. Systems froze. But this was not an enemy attack. It was something new. "Commander," the radar officer screamed. "A warp signal near orbit. But it's not Zarn. I don't recognize the signature." Lero stared at the screen. A single black ship had appeared from nowhere, no warning, no trace. It didn't match any known Valeri or Zarn designs. It was silent. It was massive. And it was Terran. "What is that?" Someone whispered. The ship hovered above the capital like a silent giant. Then the entire base received a single audio message, deep, calm, and terrifying in its simplicity. "We are coming now." Silence filled the room. "Humans?" Lero said, confused. "I thought Earth stayed neutral." "They did," said the science officer. "For 200 years. But why now?" No one had an answer. The human ship moved fast. Too fast. Within seconds, 5 Zarn cruisers were gone, burning wreckage floating in space. The black ship never even turned. Its weapons fired without sound, without flash. "Look!" cried a soldier. More of them. Out of the void, more Terran warships. Peered, black, sharp, quiet. They formed a wall above the planet, blocking the Zarn fleet. Valeri Command watched in shock as Earth's fleet began to move with cold precision. Each Zarn ship was targeted and destroyed within seconds. There was no radio chatter, no show, no noise. Just perfect, deadly moves. One Zarn dreadnought tried to retreat. It didn't make it. A human ship followed it into hyperspace, and seconds later, a bright flash filled the sky. Commander Lero's knees went weak. This is not war. This is a message. Then a new signal came, direct to Valeri base. This one was short, only a voice. "You asked for help. We're here. Stay out of our way." Lero didn't know whether to feel fear or relief. Earth had been silent for centuries. The stories said humans were dangerous, unpredictable. But now they had come. And everything had changed in 1 hour. The final hour. That's what people would call it. Later, when the war was nearly over, when hope had died, when death had come from the stars, and the only answer was humanity. A thin light broke through the smoke-filled sky. It wasn't sunlight. It was fire-clean, controlled, moving with a speed and power the Valeri had never seen before. From every direction, the Terran ships appeared black, silent, unmarked, they didn't come like a fleet. They came like hunters. Commander Lero stood on the command deck, eyes wide. He had never seen human ships in real space before. No one had. Earth had kept to itself, locked behind old treaties, watching the galaxy, but never stepping in. But now they had arrived, and they didn't come to talk. Report! Lero shouted. The radar officer stammered. 17 human warships. Stealth class. Cloaking fields unstable. Must have just dropped out of silent warp. Their formation is perfect. Sir? They're surrounding the Zarn fleet. The view on the holotable confirmed it. The humans weren't defending the Valari. They were hunting the Zarn. Without a word, the Terran fleet opened fire again. It was not a normal attack. No bright plasma blasts. No endless laser streams. Just thin beams of light, each one cutting clean through a Zarn battleship's core. One by one, the enemy ships exploded into silent balls of fire. In just minutes. Over 20 Zarn warcraft were reduced to drifting wreckage. How? How are they this strong? Whispered an officer beside Lero. Lero didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the central Terran warship. It was larger than the rest, shaped like a dagger, with no visible windows or ports. It moved slowly, confidently, like it had nothing to fear. Then a new signal came through this time. On the open channel. It was a woman's voice. XARN fleet. You have 10 seconds to surrender. After that, your choices are none. The Zarn, proud and arrogant, replied only with laughter and threats. They didn't believe Earth would dare go this far. They were wrong. 10 seconds passed, and the sky turned white. A single Terran device launched from the lead warship. It moved through space like a ghost barely visible. It entered the center of the Zarn fleet, and then everything froze. The Zarn ships stopped, their engines died, their weapons went silent, and then, in perfect sequence, every Zarn vessel disintegrated starting from within. The humans hadn't fired a bomb. They had fired a virus. An AI-coded weapon that tore through the Zarn systems, forcing their ships to destroy themselves. Commander Lero fell into his chair. What are we seeing? This is not battle. This is science fiction. No, sir, the tech officer replied. This is Earth. On the ground below, the Valari troops who had given up all hope now looked up at the sky. The red glow of death had faded. What remained now was a deep blue silent Terran ships watching from above. Then came landers. Human troop carriers dropped into the cities with zero sound. Their engines made no noise. The black armor of the soldiers reflected. No light. They moved like shadows, but they didn't fire. Instead, one group approached the outer gates of a damaged Valari bunker. A small group of surviving Valari soldiers held their weapons in fear. A human soldier walked up slowly. His helmet hissed as it opened, revealing a young man with calm, gray eyes. He didn't raise a weapon. He raised a ration pack. You look hungry, he said in calm voice. The Valari looked at one another, confused. The soldier placed the food gently on the ground. We're here to help. Let's end this. And he walked away. One Valeri whispered, monsters don't bring food. Another said, maybe they're not monsters at all. The war was far from over, but something had changed in that moment. Earth had arrived not just with power, but with purpose. They weren't there to conquer. They were there to end the war. And the galaxy had no idea what came next. Asterisk. The streets of the capital were quiet for the first time in weeks. Fires still burned. Craters marked every block. The air smelled of smoke and blood. But above it all, human ships floated watching, unmoving, like dark statues in the sky. Down. Below, a group of Valari civilians hid in the ruins of an old school building. A child cried softly in her mother's arms. An old man kept watch through a shattered window. Then they heard it. Footsteps. But not XARN. These were heavier, slower, controlled. Out of the smoke, black figures appeared. Humans, Terran soldiers. In full armor. They moved like ghosts, scanning the rubble, stepping over debris with precision. The old man aimed his weak rifle, hands shaking. One of the soldiers turned toward him. The helmet tilted. Then the soldier raised his hands. Empty. No threat. A voice came from the helmet, filtered and calm. Do not fear. We are not here to harm you. The old man's rifle dropped to the floor. From the soldier's back. A container. Unlatched. He pulled out water packs and tossed them gently toward the civilians. Then food. Then medical kits. A young Valeri boy peeked from behind a wall. Why? Why are you helping us? The human soldier paused. His voice was soft. Because we know what it's like to lose everything. In the command room of the last Valeri outpost, Commander Lero watched the reports come in. Human soldiers were not attacking. They were healing, saving, restoring power grids, giving medicine. Sir, an officer said, some think the humans want something in return. Lero shook his head. If they did, they'd already have taken it. He looked up at the screen, at one human officer treating a wounded Valeri girl like his own daughter. These are not invaders, Lero whispered. These are reminders. Meanwhile, in the battlefield ruins outside the eastern city, Valeri recon team moved through the ash-covered remains of a Zarn outpost. They had been told the area was safe, now cleared by Earth's forces. Still, their hands trembled. The air was thick with fear, and then they saw it. A human squad, standing. Still in the middle of a broken street, 5 armored Terran soldiers surrounded something a body. A large, muscular form. A Zarn commander. Dead. But this death was different. No burns. No blood. The Zarn had been ripped apart. Not with weapons, but with raw force. The Valeri stepped closer. Then, one of the human soldiers removed his helmet. He was old, scarred, eyes dark like space. He looked at the Valeri and said one word, yours, and stepped aside. Lying beneath the Zarn body was a small Valeri scout, barely alive. Shielded by the human squad, protected. What happened here? The Valeri medic asked. The human officer didn't answer. He just turned to leave. But before disappearing into the dust, he added, we don't fight for medals. We fight for life. Word spread fast across Valeri. Survivors. Earth's soldiers were different. They didn't loot. They didn't brag. They didn't speak unless needed. They just arrived, destroyed the enemy, helped the broken, and vanished like smoke. The galaxy began whispering again. Are they angels? Are they machines? Or ... were the stories true after all? Stories from ancient times. About a species from a death world. A planet so dangerous that only the strongest minds and hearts could survive. A place where even nature tried to kill you every day. That planet was Earth, and its people had now stepped onto the galactic battlefield, not for glory, but because someone cried for help. And Earth had listened. Back on the Terran flagship, a message was being recorded. A human woman, dressed in gray, spoke calmly. To the Zarn Dominion, the war you began is over. You just don't realize it yet. Asterisk. The Zarn did not understand fear. They had ruled for centuries, burned planets, crushed armies, erased species. Fear was for the weak. But now, something strange had entered their war logs. Human interference detected. High General Torque of the Zarn Dominion smashed his metal fist on the war table. Primitive apes from a cursed rock? He growled. They dare touch our fleet? An aide stammered, "Sir, Earth ships disabled our advance units without warning. No communication, no standard combat formations. They're unpredictable." "Then we respond," Torque hissed, "with everything." He gave the order, and from 5 systems away, the Zarn's deadliest armada launched a fleet of over 300 warships, led by 2 planet breakers and 3 fire moons. Their destination, Valeri, primed not to fight the humans, but to destroy the planet. Before humans could save it, Valeri scanners picked it up first, an enormous warp signal. Commander Lero's face went pale. "That's not a fleet, that's extermination. They'll burn our world before the humans can respond," whispered the radar officer. "Can we warn Earth?" asked another .LER, who looked up. "They already know." And he was right in orbit. Above Valeri, aboard the Terran flagship Vigilance, alarms flashed. A female AI voice reported, "Zarn retaliation fleet approaching. Estimated contact, 14 minutes. Total strength, overwhelming." Captain Mirek of Earth stepped forward. He was calm, still sipping coffee as the room buzzed in panic. "How many ships?" he asked. "Over 300, sir," the AI replied. Mirek said, setting his mug down. "Only 300? They really don't know us, do they?" He turned to his officers. "Begin Ghost Protocol." The lights dimmed. All Terran ships vanished from orbit. Literally. Cloaked. Jammers activated. Engines silenced. To the Zarn. It looked like Earth had fled, but they hadn't. They were simply waiting. The Zarn fleet arrived like a storm. Fire moons moved into low orbit, charging plasma cannons. Planet breakers aimed for Valeri cities. Hundreds of smaller cruisers flanked the skies. Commander Torque smiled. "Let's show the galaxy what happens to those who call monkeys for help." He raised his clawed hand to fire, but before his command was given, the stars blinked. Then vanished. One by one, tiny flashes appeared behind every major Zarn ship. Not missiles. Not fighters. Terran boarding pods. Without warning, over 600 human operatives landed directly on Zarn vessels. They didn't ask. They didn't wait. They entered. Inside the ships, chaos began. Cameras shut down. Weapons melted. Command bridges were silenced, not by bombs, but by humans in armor, walking hallways with blade rifles and neural grenades. One Zarn. Ship captain screamed, "They're inside." They're inside the ship. It was too late. Back aboard the Vigilance, Captain Mirek watched calmly. "Status?" he asked. The AI answered, 47 Zarn ships disabled. 23 detonated. From inside, fleet confusion spreading. Mirek nodded. "Good. Time to send the real message." He pressed a single button on his command board. A satellite moved into view. It broadcast one line to all nearby ships. "Valeri, Zarn, and neutral worlds listening. You tried to end them. You brought the fight. Now, we end you." Down on Valeri's surface, civilians watched the sky light up, but not from destruction. From Zarn ships exploding mid-air. Children pointed. Families wept. Soldiers stared in disbelief. In one night, Earth had turned a hopeless defense into a masterclass of war. Commander Lero stood near a medical tent, watching it all. A Terran soldier walked by, helmet under his arm, calm and quiet. Asked, "Why didn't you just nuke them all from space?" The human looked at him and said simply, "Terror fades. Memory lasts longer," and walked into the smoke. Asterisk. The galaxy was silent. After the battle, no one spoke. No one dared. Hundreds of Zarn warships had been destroyed, not by massive planetary weapons, but by humans boarding them one by one. The few surviving Zarn captains drifted in shattered hulls, repeating the same broken phrase, They were already inside. In the Valari capital, Commander Lero stood before a new arrival, a human envoy. No weapons. Just a black uniform and eyes too calm for a man who had just watched an armada burn. "I'm told you wanted to speak." Lero said. The human nodded. "Not just speak, show you something." Without waiting, he tapped a small device. A hologram appeared. Not of a battlefield, but of a lab, deep underground, secure. Hidden. Inside it, creatures, massive beings in containment, half machine, half human, eyes glowing, silent, still. Lero stepped back. What are those?" The human's voice remained level. "What we created when we feared the galaxy would never leave us alone." He paused. Project Ashburn. Backstory revealed through flash dialogue and files. After Earth's first contact centuries ago, humans realized one thing. The galaxy feared strength, but respected only monsters. So, Earth built some, deep in the frozen corners of their own planet. Humans began bioengineering warriors that no alien mind could understand. Not to fight wars, but to end them before they started. "They were never meant to be used," said the envoy. "But when the Zarn tried to wipe you out, Earth voted to unlock them." In orbit, aboard the Vigilance, one of the Ashborn stood silent in the dark hangar bay. He was over 2 meters tall, armor fused to skin, pulse blade connected directly to his nervous system, and a chip in his brain, pulsing faint blue, holding back something primal. A technician whispered, "Does it think?" Another human replied, "It thinks war, nothing else." The creature suddenly turned. It didn't speak, but its eyes locked on the galactic map. Then on the location of the Zarn. Homeworld. The lights flickered. The tech whispered, "I think it just chose its next mission." Meanwhile, across the stars, neutral races began whispering in fear. They awakened the Ashborn. "The humans are done hiding. They're not like us. They never were." Back on Valari Prime, Commander Lero walked with the envoy through the ruins. "So why are you telling us this? Isn't this your greatest secret?" The envoy stopped, then pointed to the sky, where a Terran dropship hovered above a burned Zarn wreck. "We want the galaxy to think, to understand what almost happened." He stepped closer. "And what will happen if they try again?" Suddenly, a priority signal came through. Lero listened in. The Zarn home fleet, what remained of it, was pulling back from all systems. The Dominion had gone completely silent. No threats. No broadcasts. Silence. "Are they preparing a new attack?" Lero asked. The envoy shook his head. "No," he said. "They finally saw what we could become." Lero asked, "And if someone else makes the same mistake?" The human looked him dead in the eyes. "Then we unleash what we've kept locked away since the stars first learned our name." Later that night, on every broadcast channel across multiple systems, Earth sent one short message. "We do not seek war, but we remember everything." Asterisk across the galaxy, silence had become the loudest sound. The Zarn Dominion was retreating. Entire systems once burning under their flag were abandoned overnight. Their ships drifted without orders. Their commanders stopped responding. They had seen enough, but the galaxy wasn't celebrating. They were watching Earth. And for the first time in centuries, even the most powerful empires asked themselves one terrifying question. What if the humans never stop? In orbit above a dead moon, the Terran flagship Vigilance docked with something ancient buried under ice and forgotten since before Earth ever joined the galactic map, a sealed vault locked for generations. Inside, Project Eclipse. Captain Mirek stood in the control room, his officers surrounding the console. None of them spoke. The atmosphere felt heavy. The AI voice broke the silence. "Confirm activation of Eclipse demonstration." Mirek hesitated, then nodded once. Confirm. On the edge of a barren system, far from any life, the sky split open. Terran's ship entered orbit around a lifeless test moon. Seconds later, a single black cylinder detached from the underbelly of the ship. It fell slowly silent, unremarkable. No flames. No glow. Then it landed, and the entire moon cracked in half. Without a sound, without a warning. No explosion. No heat. Just pressure, unleashed with such precision that the moon split down the center. Like soft fruit. It was over in 5 seconds. Across military networks, a single video feed was shared galaxy-wide, a moon breaking in two, Earth's symbol glowing faintly in the stars behind it. Back on Valari Prime, Commander Lero stared at the broadcast screen. He didn't speak. No one in the room did. The Valari general beside him whispered, "Was that a new weapon?" Lero's voice was soft. "No, that was a message." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, panic erupted. On the homeworlds of ancient powers, rulers called emergency meetings. Treaties were rewritten overnight. Spies were withdrawn. Military leaders gave one order: avoid Earth. Do not provoke. Some tried to understand the weapon. None could. Others tried to trace the tech. It was unlike anything recorded. Even the Zarn stopped running. They vanished, not out of strategy, but out of fear. Inside Earth's central war chamber, Captain Mirek sat before the council. One member, a former admiral, leaned forward. "You risked the galaxy's balance with that display." Mirek responded calmly, "No, we ended a war without firing on a living soul." Another counselor asked, "And if someone attacks again?" Mirek glanced at the screen project Eclipse, glowing red in standby mode. "Then we remind them what patience looks like when it runs out." The Valari, once broken and scattered, began to rebuild. Their cities rose again, helped by human engineers. Children laughed in schools, once turned into bunkers. Their skies were no longer filled with fear, but with Earth's silent protectors. And in their new capital stood a statue, a human soldier holding a Valari child. Under it, a plaque read, "They came not to rule, but to stop the end." But far beyond the Valari worlds, in the dark edges of space, something else watched. Old species, silent species, species that had hidden for eons, and now they saw the humans not as newcomers, but as a threat they never saw coming. A whisper began among them, "Do not test the Deathworlders. They walk softly, but they carry stars in their hands. If they choose war, the sky itself will be afraid." And yet, on Earth, no parades were held, no speeches were given. The young humans returned to their silent orbit, watching, waiting. The war was not their glory. Their only prize was peace. But everyone now knew, if peace ever broke, Earth would not just fight. It would finish everything. The war was over. But the stars no longer felt the same. Trade routes reopened. Planets once lost to fire were rebuilt. The Valari people once nearly wiped out breathed freely again. But across every corner of the galaxy, there was a silent truth no one could deny. Everything had changed, and Earth was at the center of it all. In the grand assembly of galactic powers, alien leaders gathered. For the first time since the Zarn retreat, the council chambers, once cold and arrogant, were filled with tension. At the center stood a new seat, untouched, unclaimed, glowing faint blue. It belonged to Earth. But no one from Earth had come to sit in it. Not yet. Some whispered Earth. Too proud. Others said the humans were watching from shadows. But the truth was simpler. Earth had nothing left to prove. On Valari Prime, children were taught a new lesson in school. Who helped when no one else would? The answer was always the humans. One young student raised her hand. "But why did they leave after saving us?" Her teacher smiled softly, because they never came to stay, only to help us stand again. Outside the school window, a Terran ship hovered high in the atmosphere, silent, still, always watching. Back on Earth, Commander Mirek walked through a quiet forest path. No cameras, no guards. Just trees, wind, and silence. A young recruit joined him. "Sir, the galaxy fears us now." Mirek didn't answer right away. He bent down, picked up a small stone, and tossed it into a stream. "Let them fear us," he finally said. "Fear keeps war from waking." The recruit nodded. "But what if they forget?" Mirek stopped walking. He turned to the recruit with calm eyes and said, "Then we remind them, not with fire, but with footsteps." Far from Earth, in an old and forgotten system, something strange happened. A beacon, lit up. Ancient. Human. Made. Its message was only 2 words. "We're listening." No threat. No demand. Just a promise. In the galactic core, a minor world dared to speak against Earth's rising influence. Its leader made a broadcast. The humans act like gods, but bleed like anyone else. 3 days later, that leader resigned. Because of bombs. Not because of war, but because Earth leaked a simple file. A list of everything the leader had hidden for 10 years. No threats. No words. Just facts. The galaxy realized something deeper than Earth's weapons. Humanity's real. Power wasn't destruction. It was choice. They chose when to appear. They chose when to save. They chose not to rule, even when no one could stop them. And that frightened the powerful more than any warship. 1 year later, on the edge of the rebuilt Valeri capital, a memorial garden bloomed where the last battle had been fought. In the center stood a black stone. Statue. It showed a Valeri child reaching out to a tall, armored human. Etched into the stone, the war was lost. Until the humans came, not as kings, not as monsters, but as the last fire in the coldest night. Back on Earth, in a quiet military archive room, Project Eclipse was sealed again. Its last log entry read, "Used once, remembered forever." Beside it sat a plaque of its own. "This is not a weapon. This is a choice, and we choose peace." Asterisk and. So, the galaxy entered a new order, one without screaming armies, without arrogant threats, where peace wasn't held by fear, but by the memory of what Earth had done, and what Earth could still do. Because now, when anyone asked, "Who controls the stars?" the answer was whispered. Quiet. Careful. And true. No one controls the stars, but the humans walk among them now.